just on Airbnb, and then you say there's a group of nonprofit organizations within the community. I'd like to know how many nonprofits are involved with this development, and if they're affiliated with the community foundation that just received $500,000 in minority food money for people who are located within the communities that you're taking this market out of, which seems like a very backhanded kind of deal that you would, solicit donations from the Kellogg's Foundation, $500,000 because of the lack of food access and the minority food needs in those communities. Yet, at the same time, have the same nonprofits working in a development to take sustenance out of the community. 7,200 people a day. You have a cluster right there of actual non-imaginary people who are using this market where it stands, and you want to move it to somewhere to create image because you wish to solicit a new populace for this community. Yet I don't see very many people here that would represent any kind of inclusive nature to this development whatsoever. Right now, to the way these meetings are scheduled, you say, well, there's another meeting tomorrow that was in the paper. There was no time on it. And it very much looks like what you're trying to do is divide and conquer as far as advancing the concept for this development. So, these are all important things as you develop. Do you want to further segregate a community that we can tell is already segregated just by the way these are laid out, these meetings that pertain specifically to this development? So I guess what my question is which nonprofits is this community foundation who received that funding because of the need? Are they involved with the development of this project to move this sustenance out of those same communities?
Well, yeah.
Can you reiterate what she just shared with you?
Yes. She is definitely concerned about the movement of this out of one neighborhood to another. Is it going to be as accessible to the populations it currently serves? And so she wants to know who's behind it. There is a whole movement with the Community Foundation as one of the leaders. They're just one on this whole food desert thing.
You say there are, but there's also the ones that you're talking about that will head these little sessions following us in groups.
Well, and tomorrow's night is where we hope to have the conversation you're starting today is with the neighborhoods. And I don't know maybe why the time wasn't reported. I think we want to make sure tomorrow it is the neighborhood people and not the people from Norton Shores.
If a community foundation is receiving money because of lack of access for a portion of our citizens, and the same foundation is taking sustenance from the place that they're applying for the money to meet the needs of, $500,000.
2 minutes, Bob.
Yes.
Isn't that kind of duplicitous?
It's a good conversation, but I think they're going to
and I would just from what I know.
I just have a comment. I have some concerns about the movement market as well. I think that there's a few things I'm concerned about is the community voice. And I know you're saying that there's a meeting tomorrow for this, but I also do think it's important at this point that you said that people from Jackson Hill, maybe people who have also used the market as it currently is for food access, specifically with the Double Up Food Box program. I know people are familiar with that. It was a food stamp program that a lot of people, it started last year at the market. And so I think that not consulting the people who already, at this point in the process, is not responsible. And also, that meeting time, it wasn't announced. I live in the Nelson neighborhood, and I did not receive any sort of notification about the time of that meeting. I understand what the time is now. I also have a concern about the flea market. I'm concerned that it's a tool for supplemental income for a lot of low-income people in our area, and I'm concerned that with the move of this market, the flea market won't continue, and so that's something that we also need to think about and take into consideration. I also, just in general, the community voice is a big concern that I have, and I think it's also important to realize and pay respect to the fact that there are already a lot of people living downtown, and so to kind of sacrifice or at the expense of the people already living downtown to move the market and spend millions of dollars to move the market just to attract more people downtown who aren't there doesn't make a lot of sense to me. And so I think that it'd be great to focus more on the community that's already there. I also just wanted to let people know that there's a group of citizens who have started a ballot proposal, ballot initiative to keep the market at their current location. There's a lot of different reasons why people are interested in keeping that at the current location. And so there's a few people here tonight who have those petitions. If you're interested, please, yeah, you can find me and sign it. Thank you.
She's a funny ball.
What's that?
It's Nell. I don't know her last name. Nell.
I don't know.
She's very active. She's been at the city hall quite a lot.
I got another question. There's a lot of young kids go on there during the summertime, walking bikes down there. And I'm thinking, if you move the market down there, they're going to get harassed down there. It's already, they go down there right now, downtown, they're going to get harassed. If you see 50 young black kids down there, they're mostly going to harass them. Down there where the market is right there, they don't get harassed. There's never been no fighting, no killing, no stabbing, nobody getting harassed down there. If you want to put the money, the market where it is right now, the market where it is right now.
We hope you will be there tomorrow night also. Could it be up, has there been a study done on what, could it be upgraded to meet the standards that we're looking at here potentially?
I can, if somebody from the city wants to stand up, I know there's been some discussion by the city staff and by the commissioners about having another group start working on what could be done with the Jackson Hill area land, because it is a great piece of land as far as the size of it. And so there's a lot of things that could be done. I think that's what they're thinking about doing, getting another group engaged to start looking at what could, because now would be the time to do that. Because if we go forward with this, the other group should start going forward with Jackson Hill, so that when we make the move, then there's a great idea for what to use down there. I don't know if anybody from the city, is that basically, am I answering that correctly? Yeah. Our group is going to be focused on this, and I think there will be other groups focused on Jackson Hill.
And I'm not sure, I wouldn't know how to answer this one at all. What about the flea market?
Well, that's part of, I think, as we move forward with the Citizens Advisory Committee, and I know the city would like us to have some neighborhood groups on the City Advisory Committee, neighborhood representatives, because the people we represent, we're the build-it people.
The ones that are really thriving and succeeding are the ones that first go to the population that are there and speak to them and work together. And it's amazing what can come out of these kind of meetings, the brilliance and creativity and community and ownership that people can take for community if they're included. I'd like to know what the diversity of the Citizens Advisory Committee is, how that was chosen, is it chosen yet, how big is it, who does it include? I really think if that flea market, if the decision to not have the flea market there, which I don't think is going to work there, and my fear is that that's going to become an upscale market, and those houses get in that will not serve economically the poorer population. But the thing is, I just feel like Muskegon, and I've been for a year going to city commission meetings asking people the city leaders to include and the developers to include populations that they're going to affect. This can be seen as a gentrification move. And if you get rid of the flea market, that will seal the deal on that it is. So, you could have a flea market where it stands with this new farmers market. I mean, it's lovely that our town would revere farmers that much that they want to make a crown jewel of the downtown, the farmers market. I like that, but for the right reasons. Not just to attract people to high-density housing on the beach where they're taking away access to the beach there. Not just for rich white people. That's the thing. And the black community does feel intimidated to come across Muskegon Avenue. It's the truth. Children at the Hackley community, at the Hackley Park Christmas Festival, were called the N-word last year. Children. Now, we have a racism problem in downtown Muskegon, and it's not being addressed. So the farmers market really is a key thing in this problem. So, I hope going forward, I've heard that this is a freight train that is not going to be stopped. So, if it is, then, to make it succeed and to make it work for the whole community, I really hope that you can really get with a wide diversity of people and start working together. You know, it'll be hard. Yes, it will be hard, but it will be worth it. And the community will take ownership and take pride and be part of it. So, you know, the other thing that I wonder about is, I don't know exactly from these drawings, but have you talked to Merrick about partnering with making it the most green, sustainable, solar, wind, and runoff is one of the biggest polluters of our lakes. So I don't know if those are curved there, but you know there's now stuff where you indent the grass so that the water runs down and actually waters things instead of just pollutes the lake. So you know, these are some of the concerns that I have. And the composite material, are you going to be using recycled composite material? You know,
yes.
Good. So let me see if there's anything else.
Do you live in one of the neighborhoods? Because our team is not filled out yet. So.
I hang around here.
If you still want to see separated, I'm trying to say, you know, that's the main issue. You know, you want to see this front get better. Ain't nothing wrong with that getting better. Ain't nothing wrong with making changes. But we all got to make changes together.
We do.
You know, and that's the main thing. We got to make changes together. You know, it seems like it's here and there. And that's the bottom line. You know, you got to get rid of the farm. What's all with the old farmers farm? It's going to be a ban, it's going to be a saving for drug activities and everything that's going on down there. Now, there ain't no drug activities going on. There's people down there making an honest living. People, like I said, going from the old folks home, they're walking down with carts and stuff. They can't walk way down there to get food. You know, get their fresh food. Y'all can find rides and transportation for them. You know, give them cab bosses to catch a cab down there. You know, I have seen old people down there. I have got on my truck and helped them put their food in my car and take it up there. You know, there's going to be a lot of old people can't afford to walk down, can't afford to catch the bus, because they live on a fixed income, don't even have someone to pay for their medicine. You know, instead of the city, they need to go out and go to the high-rise where they stay at, where the farmers market at, to talk to them, see how can we make this work. You know, what do they need? You know, that's the main thing with this city. We don't come together as a city. And like you said, you're on the Patrick Park right now, how many Afro-American kids really go down there to the south? None of them call it N-word, but when the fight breaks out, we the ones get in trouble. You know, the one come back to us. And like I said, you going on Wood Street. How does Wood Street look right now? We can do other things with that money deciding to build a farmer's market. Put it in our community, educate our youth. You know, get a youth activity center going on for these kids that have to do besides sit on the corner and get in trouble. Teenagers quit having babies. You know, that's the main thing. We don't come together as a community. We don't. It's always separated.
Excellent presentation for the relocation and development. I'm also hearing some language of a separation that's manifested by race and income and so what have you. And I know we've talked, Cindy, so will you help with the bridge? And I know you're going to deal with this tomorrow, but I think we would be negligent tonight if there was not some type of urban bridge developed. What is some of the hopes of the vacancy that will be left in Jackson Hill? What are some of the possible hopes of investing in that as well? I think that would help in the dialogue tonight. Can you help us with that?
No, I can, a little bit. I think to the person's point about getting some more creative people involved, because again, I got to be focused on this, and we need someone else to be focused on Jackson Hill. But because of this, I drove all the way around Jackson Hill, tried to see where the water is down there, the water area, and where there's some natural beauty. There's natural beauty connected to Jackson Hill and that whole piece of property. It's a very unique piece of property.
I think we must do it and do it as quickly as we can.
The articles that have come out in the MLAC with regard to this project, first of all, the 2 meetings have been scheduled for after this, almost look like groups, like White Power will be getting together here in the theater to make their decisions today. And in the following days, if you can figure out what time we're going to get together, you guys can get together in your little clutches in these small communities. Once again, the duality. If we are one great big community, why the separate venues for the conversation? If we're not doing that in recognition of the great divide that we have in Muskegon. How is any development that is going to sustain the full community, supposed to work if you leave this huge demographic out of your development. And in these same articles, the way race enters this communication is not through your advocates or through your activists working on foot in the interior communities. It's because of the image building that you do in Hemlock, where you say things like repurposing space to be used for dog crap. And then they'd like to have a dog park at Jackson Hill where the market used to be in that community. And that's in the Chronicle. And another part where you get this great division into regions, all right? And the image problem is, last article I read pointed at one citizen in particular and said, here is our voice of discontent, and they don't want development. That is not the case. There are many concerned citizens within the interior communities who want great development for Muskegon's downtown. Inclusive, phenomenal development. But not just for a residential development for Brooks, so that they have our farmers market of people who are already here. Many colors, many generations, but already here. Take the sustenance from those communities, which, by the way, are not exclusively African American communities. The demographic is about 50-50. But the poverty rate is much higher, and that's why we look at gentrification. Is it necessary for a tax base? Absolutely. How it is achieved has to do with social justice. And that is where we're at with this development. This is an unjust development.
We got some people up here who haven't been heard yet.
We have a foundation that's responsible for garnering money.
2 minutes.
Yeah, 2 minutes. Sorry.
That appears.
Gentleman right there.
First of all, I think before I get perfect for downtown Muskegon.
For white downtown Muskegon.
Here we go again. Let's not confuse the issue here.
Yeah, it's gentrification. It's the rich white people against everybody else. But keep going. Please, rich white man. We never hear enough from people like you.
Wait.
I'm sorry.
Time to go.
We're just about out of time anyway, so please.
Pre-convention bench was a program, and it might not be until